Hello,
Wicked.
ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second in the series of the Alegree Insiders Look podcast. Today, I am joined by Cy Bailey, who is a guitar builder, and I'll allow him to introduce himself here.
Hi, I'm Simon Cy Bailey from SMB Guitars. I'm luthier guitar tech based in a sleepy little village called Milland, which is it's kind of equidistant between Petersfield and Hazelmere. So we're in West Sussex here, right in the not right in the centre, but we're in the South Downs National Park. So lots of lovely trees and fields around us here. Very nice part of the world to have a workshop anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet it is. So, what is it that you specialise in?
Um, well, all kinds of guitar work. I normally sort of say, well, there's two types of luthier. There's the bowed stringed luthiers, and there's the plucked stringed luthiers, and I fit into the plucked string. So if you pluck or strum your instrument, then I make them and repair them. I don't do anything that's bowed, no violins or the violin family. But otherwise, if it's got a string and you pluck it or strum it, then I repair them and make them. Generally, my work is based in guitars and basses, but I see mandolins, banjo. So basically, if you it's guitar family stuff. So guitars, basses, mandolins, ukuleles. I do banjos, and I've done other world instruments as well, balalaikas. I've got a Turkish sazin at the moment. I'm doing some work on. So most of my work is repair work, but a vast majority of it is building guitars as well. And I'd say again, most of my work is building wise, is guitars, mainly 6-string electrics. I studied in acoustic guitar construction. And I'd say of all the guitars that I build about 70% electric, 30% acoustic. And that's not by choice, that's just what the kind of work that comes into me. Is mainly electric work, and I don't know why that is. It's just I'm happy to build whatever, to be honest. I don't have set. A lot of builders out there, they've got like their set range of instruments that they will build, but I'm happy to crack on with anything, to be honest.
Yeah, right.
I'm building all kinds of sort of stringed instruments. I've built ukuleles and mandolins and guitars and basses, acoustic bass, 12 strings, all sorts really. Yeah.
So it sounds like you have a pretty diverse skill set there, especially with building instruments. I'd assume if you can build a guitar, then you can more or less repair anything that comes in on the guitar then.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I mean, as I say, they're all from the stringed instrument, the plucked instrument family. I don't go down the violin route, as I've said before. But yeah, I mean, they're interchangeable skills. If an instrument's got a loose brace, it doesn't really matter if it's a mandolin or a guitar or a 12 string or whatever. They're interchangeable skills to work on a variety of different instruments. Yeah.
Have you had any repair work that's really made you scratch your head and you've really struggled?
Yeah, and I love that. I really
Oh,
do.
okay.
And it's the same with building guitars as well. I like something that's a bit of a challenge. I don't like. I mean, I'm happy to build somebody a Strat or a Telly if they want it. But what I really enjoy doing is the complete bespoke one-off stuff. A lot of my instruments that I build, I rarely do two that are the same, and I think that's what people come to me for. Is they've got an idea in their head, and it's not something that you can get off the shelf. So that's where I come in, building stuff for people that you can't get anywhere else, to be honest.
Yeah, I do quite a lot of the same stuff, but obviously not
Yeah.
building guitars, but with pickups and stuff. You do get some crazy ideas, some wacky ideas where people go, okay, I want this and this melded together. You go, well, I've never thought of that before, and I doubt anyone else has ever thought of it before, but it sounds like fun, so let's try.
Yeah, that's what I love doing. Yeah. Sometimes you have to rein them in a little bit.
Yeah, well,
Really crazy ideas.
there's some stuff that's not physically possible. I think
Yeah, yeah,
outside of that, and then everything's fair game, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. As long as you've got the um, drive to do it, and you want to do something like that, because I do know sort of some builds just or repairs just like, nah, I'm not touching that with the barge pole. And I'm like, I'm like, yeah, come on, let's have a go. Let's do something different. Mm.
Yeah, well, I think that's basically the two camps of guitar, isn't it? There's the vintage accurate people and then the people who want all the cutting edge stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel either with the instruments that I do, because I do have my own designs of guitars. But you know, they'll happily sit in the Fender camp or the Gibson camp, or you know, they're wearing their influences firmly on their sleeves. So I'm not trying to make guitars that are you know, never seen of, never heard of before. I'm not trying to make something completely new, or yeah, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I just want to make sort of classic looking, classic sounding instruments with a bit of my own spin on them, you know.
Yeah, yeah, I think the expression is not trying to be different for the sake of being different.
Yeah, quite. I mean, if something's got 3 single coils on it, it's going to sound a lot like a Strat.
Yeah,
So, and if something's got twin humbuckers on it and it's made of a big slab of mahogany, it's going to sound a lot like a Les Paul. There's no point in trying to shy away from that and you know, try and make it something completely different. Because from my experience, people don't want that. As guitarists, we are kind of set in our ways.
yeah, I would say so. With definitely the majority of the consumer base seems to be pretty conservative in what they want.
Yeah, and I'm happy with that. You know, I'm the same as well. You know, don't want some. As I said, I don't want something that's. I mean, you can pick up the guitar magazines, and you look at them, and you look at the new section of you know, latest releases, and you're looking at them and you're thinking, well, you know, there's nothing new here. There hasn't been anything new for many years. It's all sort of around the same formula, and I, for one, I'm quite happy with that. You know, I like how guitars
Yeah,
look, sound. I don't want to have something that's you know, a million miles away from what you come to expect from a decent, playable sounding instrument.
yeah, I think that's the real issue with the market at the moment, that there doesn't seem to be too much of a consumer base to really push the boundaries or to put significant research and development into it. So I think that manufacturers and developers are really stuck between a rock and a hard place in that maybe they have got good innovations and such, but to prototype it with tooling and such that may be involved, it costs a lot, and you don't really know whether the market's there. Whereas it's a pretty safe bet if you're doing vintage accurate stuff that stuff's going to fly off the shelves pretty quickly.
Yeah, yeah, there is that. And you know, the same with the relicing camp as well. People who are into the relics, they seem to fly off the shelf as well. It's not something that I do. I have had a go at doing that sort of stuff before, and you know, it's very popular. But I'm not. I wouldn't class myself as somebody who does pro relicing work. There are people, you know, that's just out of this world who just
Yeah,
really good at that sort of stuff. But that's not me.
yeah, I do know of a few people that do it, and they're definitely, I'm not a fan of relicing at all. I don't really care if my guitars get a bit bashed up, but I'll
Yeah,
never go out and buy one intentionally bashed up. But I have seen some people who do really good work, and even not being a fan of it myself, I can look at some relic
oh
work
yeah,
and go, that looks absolutely atrocious, and some that you look at and you go, the guy who did that, he definitely knows what he's doing.
yeah, right.
There definitely seems to be quite a disparity in the skill.
Yeah, I mean, and it is art as well. You know, when it all comes down to it, we're all in the same business. We're all making art, really. And I have said that from the start, and it might make it sound sort of poncy, but I'm putting heart and soul into the guitars that I build, and for me, um, it is a piece of art at the end of the day. Some people want them built just to hang on the wall. I don't agree with that. I think they should be. Guitars don't belong on walls or in cases under beds. They belong on the stage, or in the hands of somebody playing it.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
but
You say that with art. I wonder if, just going off at a slight tangent here, I wonder if there is a level of subjectivity to relicking as well. So someone who is a fan of relics would go, I really like this sort of relic, but I don't like this sort of relic, even if they were done by the same person with the same skill set, for instance.
yeah, I mean, I can't see why not. I mean, everything's subjective, really, isn't it? At the end of the day, which is again one of the reasons why you can have the debate over um, what sounds good, what doesn't sound good. I get people asking me all the time, is this going to make my guitar sound better, or is this going to make my guitar sound worse? I say it's going to change the sound a bit. That's all I can say. Is
Yeah,
what we can do if we're changing the nut, for example, or the saddles, or we're putting a different finish on it on the guitar. So how's that going to change the sound? Is it going to make it sound better? Well, I don't know. I don't know what the ear sounds like. You know, it might sound better to you. It might sound worse to you. It might sound what you hear in your head is different to what I hear in my head. There is no such thing as good tone. And I know it gets bandied around a lot. People saying this will improve your tone. So, well, how do you know it's going to improve my tone? Tone is purely 100% subjective.
yeah, I completely agree. I think that's everyone who works in this market, their least favorite question to be asked.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. It's
there's no right answer to it. It's
no,
I always get the question, oh, what's your best pickup for this, and which is better for this? And like, I have to offer sound clips. You have to listen and decide that yourself. There's no best pickup for anything. It's just entirely down to your own tastes. As I
yeah,
say, with tastes, I say it's like, do you like chocolate cake or do you like vanilla cake? There's no best. It's just whichever you prefer.
yeah, and you can get really stuck into the nitty gritty with some people, and I love doing that. Going down to the really finer points in a build, getting really involved in stuff like that. And I really enjoy sort of getting right down and discussing every single aspect of the build. But even when you're talking little things and they're making little changes, you still can't say whether this is going to make it sound better, because there is no better.
Yeah, I agree with your previous point that you were saying it's really enjoyable if you get someone who can almost test you in the way that they have their knowledge of the subject up
Yeah,
there with your own. So they'll throw some ideas that maybe you hadn't thought of before. So it can definitely help you to improve yourself. I definitely enjoy those sort of products as well. So
yeah.
next, I want to ask, because we were discussing before we started recording, how the virus, which I'm sure everyone has heard of, is getting
Virus is
sick of hearing of.
which one? I haven't heard of this one.
Uh, yeah, this thing called COVID. If you hadn't heard of, yeah, just look on the news.
Turn on
Any
the
page
telly.
of the news will do. Yeah, we were just discussing how that had affected business.
Um, it's affected as I said before, majority of my work is repair work, setups, fret work, people bringing instruments to the workshop to have them repaired, set up, and that part has been really affected by um, COVID-19, just because people are supposed to stay at home. They're not going to bring their guitars out to me to have them repaired when they've been instructed to stay at home. Likewise, the music industry has disappeared. People aren't doing gigs, and majority of my customers, when they're coming to me, are gigging pro or session musicians. So if they haven't got work, then they're not going to be bringing their instruments into the workshop to have them looked at. Um, but having said that, I'm still building instruments and still in the workshop making guitars, making basses. So that part hasn't changed really, but the other part has had a big taken a big dip for me, which is concerning, but I still get to come into the workshop and play with tools and play with wood and play with guitars, so I'm happy.
Yeah, but you were saying that there was a silver lining to this, that the eBay side of your business is starting to pick up.
Yeah, I mean, I have an eBay shop where we sell guitar parts, pick guards, pickup surrounds, switches, all those sort of things. And people are sitting at home on their computers, just bored. So that side of the things of my business has grown exponentially. So I've been spending a lot of time at home. I moved all my eBay shop from my workshop into my shed at home, so I now spend a lot of time at home, much to the great delight of my children, and just working out the shed. I've put a small workbench in there as well, so I can do a few minor guitar repairs at home as well. And so that part has taken off a lot more. I'm a lot busier doing the eBay stuff, which is okay. It's not exactly my favorite thing to do in the world, packing up packages and sending the stuff out, but it makes a bit of money, so that's all good. I'd much prefer to be in the workshop, just getting stuck into.
Yeah, I completely agreed. On Monday, I had to package 220 orders, so that was not fun.
Yeah, that is quite a few. Mine, I haven't been doing that many, so.
I tell you, the worst part of that was lugging that all down to the post office. You don't need to hit the gym for the next month or so after that, I reckon.
You don't stand there and do them each individually, or did you do drop and go?
I use click and drop, so I have huge sacks. But I literally filled the sack to the brim, and the sack it's got to be at least 4 foot tall. So it was a huge weight. It must have been about 40 kilos that I lugged about 2 miles. So that wasn't fun.
How long was that for? You said you did about 200 packages over how long a period?
Well, I closed my business for a couple of weeks. Yeah, it was a couple of weeks. But getting a lot less orders than normal over those 2 weeks because I had all the notifications up saying I'm not shipping at the moment because I was self-isolating. And then when I reopened, a backlog of 220.
Blimey.
And,
I'm shipping. I'm doing about 25. No, about 35 every other day. So I'm going to the post office every other day with about 30 packages. So what's that, sort of 60, 90, about 100 a week, 100 and something a week, I guess. Yeah,
that's quite a lot for a side project.
Yeah, and it does keep me busy. What I've been doing recently over these last few weeks is getting up early in the morning, getting down the shed, packing all the orders up, and then taking them to the post office for lunchtime, and then coming into the main workshop in the afternoon and bringing home any other work that I can do from home. A lot of my work is handwork. I do use power tools, routers and things like that, and I've got a bandsaw and I've got power sanders and bobbin sanders and things in the workshop, but I still, majority of the work is done with chisels and hand planes and hand tools, proper hand tools. So I can do that from home. It's easy to take a select few rasps and scrapers to the workshop and carve a neck out in an afternoon. I can do that quite happily sitting in the shed, so that's not so bad. It's just the distraction that you get from your children going, "What are you doing? That looks interesting. Can I help?" I'd love you to help, but yeah.
That's the worst thing of working from home, having all the distractions around you and being unable to concentrate on what you're doing. But I bet you're glad that you had diversified beforehand doing eBay, so you were ready for this sort of thing. Otherwise, you probably would be struggling to make ends meet, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. It has been very lucky. I only set up the eBay shop in September, and it was just because a good deal came my way with a lot of stock, and I couldn't pass it down. So I thought I bought all this stock, and with the idea of sort of slowly selling it over a few years, to be honest, a year, 2 years, something like that. And then when lockdown came in, it was all set up and all prepared, and it just trebled the amount that we were doing. And so that's been a nice little bit of extra money just coming in, which is
I think we're going to see more diversification. I think with a lot, especially supermarkets, for instance. I don't know if you've ever tried recently to book one of the delivery slots, but they're all gone. I think similarly, ordering online, I find actually strings at the moment. Strings seem to be flying out the door in comparison to how they normally do. So I think a lot of people who would usually go to their local music store to buy strings are now going online because they don't have the choice otherwise. I think we may see even more in the future going forward because they've realised just how convenient and easy it is to buy strings or something similar. For instance, just using that as an example, online as opposed to going to their local music store and picking them up.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I to be honest, I buy all of my strings online anyway, and I have done just because it's super easy to just click and have them there the next day. I mean, but I haven't been noticing that I have noticed that the delivery times on things like strings have gone from next day to 3 days, 4 days, something like that. So
I'm assuming you're talking Amazon next day delivery.
Yeah, I mean, I have had accounts with some of the bigger string manufacturers gone direct to them, like Daddario, but you're having to order large amounts to make it worthwhile. And if you're ordering, 60, 70 quid's worth of strings, something like that, it's just as cheap to get them off Amazon, and they can be there the next day.
Yeah.
Which is a no-brainer, really. But they
because I know Amazon use their own couriers, I believe. But Royal Mail, I send more or less all my stuff with Royal Mail. Royal Mail at the moment is absolutely dire. I've got waves of customers asking me where's my item. It should have been here by now. I have to explain that Royal Mail, from what I've heard, the majority of their employees are self-isolating at the moment, so everything's delayed all over the place. Some stuff is going through normal time, and some stuff is taking an additional week or so.
Yeah, it's like delivery times around Christmas. It's changed to be like that, but perpetually Christmas.
Yeah, I think it's
perpetually Christmas delivery time without the fun of Christmas.
Yeah. Well, it feels like Christmas with the amount of orders that we're getting at the moment.
It does.
Although that being said, I actually find post-Christmas, January and February, tend to be the peak areas. For me, at least, because I sell a lot of stuff which is sort of the accessories to guitars. So I imagine people go out and get their big guitar purchases and stuff around Christmas. Then after Christmas, they decide what they don't like about it and what they want to modify. So that's my real Christmas.
Strange, really. For me, it's completely the opposite. Often December is a busy time, really busy time for musicians. So my workshop's very busy. Lots of guitars coming in and out in December. Christmas hits. The week between Christmas and New Year's, generally just people, pros who have got New Year's gigs and things like that. I don't seem to see the regular, just average Joe guitar player come into the workshop between Christmas and New Year. And then January is dead. Nothing for me January, really. And I always get to like third week in January and I'd start, drumming my fingers going, is there anybody out there playing guitars? And then third week of January hits and the phone starts ringing again. It's really weird.
Yeah, I find that with April actually, which makes the huge demand at the moment be very strange. Everything, it tends to calm down during March, but as soon as April rolls around, 1st of April, generally everything just goes silent for a couple of weeks or so.
That's that virus, I think.
Well, yeah, this year we'd have a good excuse for it. But over the last three Aprils that I've been in business now, it's almost like clockwork. But this year, yeah, everything's peaked up massively. 'Cause I don't know, maybe it would be following the same trend, but obviously quarantine's making people go out and buy it, which is strange because I thought with we're going to see an awful lot of job losses and pay cuts and all the rest of it. I thought, I don't know, maybe we'll see the damage to our businesses after quarantine is lifted. But
I'm not sure. As I said, I'm just going to keep on ploughing through, see what I can get done.
yeah,
I started up business in the middle of the recession. So I started 2007.
right, okay. You've been in business a whole lot longer than me then.
Yeah, I've been doing it a while. And I started up then, and I thought, wow, if I can make a business work at the beginning of this recession, then I can take on anything. But
Yeah, for sure.
It's always been slowly getting busier as you get a name for yourself. But
Yeah.
you started off doing it, evenings and weekends, because I didn't have much work. Because it was in the middle of a financial crisis, and then slowly as that died away, then I was able to start doing it, 2-3 days a week, and then start being full time doing it, and then find a bigger workshop, and to the point where I am, now, which just before the COVID-19 lockdown, I was, working 5.5, 6 days a week. Still am working that amount, but in different circumstances. Crazy. It's weird. I don't like it the way that I'm working at the moment, but hey ho, needs must. We'll get out of it sometime. But yeah,
Hopefully not in the too distant future, but we don't know. Seems to be prolonged every time you look at the news, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's why I've deleted the news.
It's one way to solve the problem.
Yeah, stop turning the TV on. Yeah. Instead of sitting watching the TV in the evening, do something useful. Go and play the guitar. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's why we're seeing more business people with more time picking up guitars and deciding, I don't like this bit of guitar, I want to modify it, and going out and buying stuff. I reckon that's probably contributing to it as well.
Yeah, well, I'm seeing on social media a lot more people just posting videos of themselves playing guitar or these virtual open mic things. They're great. Loads of people out there still playing and making music, and it's it's exciting. It's good. It's a good time.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if you've heard of him, but on YouTube, a guy called Dovi Das.
No.
He's a great guy from the US, and he's been doing a quarantine what's he called it, a quarantine show or something, every night, and he just takes requests and does his own thing over it. He's a fantastic guitarist, really been enjoying that. He does it every night.
Cool.
So that's definitely one to watch for anyone listening out there. If you're listening in the near future and you're still doing it.
Sounds cool.
So following on from what you were saying before with the progression of where you are with your business, so how have you progressed it really?
Well, when I first started taking an interest in it goes back to I believe, when I was like 16 really is when it all started, and the cogs started whirring of what I wanted to do. I started about around the age of sort of 16, start taking an interest in modifying your own instruments that you've got, making sure they're always in tip-top condition, playability wise, aesthetically as well, because we're a very proud bunch, us guitarists, really, aren't we? We play the guitar first with your eyes, I always say. So if you see a guitar and it's hanging on shop window, you look at it first and you're playing it. You say, would I look cool playing that guitar? and it's got to look good first. So I was taking an interest in swapping out pickups, changing nuts, saddles, things like that in guitar. Then got into refinishing, stripping a few guitars, did a few terrible refinishes myself, and then I was age 21 where I decided to go and study lutherie, and I did a 3-year course up in South Thames College, Merton, 3 years full-time course studying classical guitar construction. And then it was when I left there that I set up business straight away. And as I said, I was doing it evenings and weekends out of my parents' shed, and started doing setups and things for friends, family, stuff like that. And then slowly the business grows and you start getting known by local musicians, and then slowly you start building a few more instruments. Work gets busier, to the point where you're having to. I was a jobbing site carpenter at the time, hanging doors and putting skirting boards and stuff like that. And then slowly I'm doing one day less a week there, until the point where I'm just doing guitar work full time out of my parents' shed. And then I was getting building in the shed became very difficult, because storing wood, for one, you have to have something that's really well climate controlled. So if you're building out of a cold, drafty shed, it's really not appropriate. So I had to find a larger workshop, and I've been in this one in Milan here for about 7 years now, I think, and just becoming busier and busier each year. That's I'm not building thousands of guitars. I'd say probably about a dozen, 15 instruments maximum a year. So not loads and loads, but they're all bespoke, one-off, handcrafted instrument. That's what the customer wants, really. But I guess that's how the business has progressed. It's really just been a slow labor of love.
Yeah. So it sounds like it's pretty much been word of mouth, just customer testimonials.
Yeah, I did do some advertising in magazines and things like that before, and I just find that they don't really pay dividends. You don't get much back from them. It is really about, for me, I've found, because I play in bands as well, getting out there, meeting musicians, talking to musicians, finding out what they want, proper research at the ground level, talking to people, the good old fashioned talking to people. I found that's where most of my work comes from.
Well, yeah, well, as you say, if you play in bands yourself, then obviously your own experiences from that. Yeah. I mean, that's how I got very interested in the guitar, was from playing in bands, and we would was gigging a lot in my early 20s, sort of every Friday, Saturday night, and having a guitar that sounds great and is consistently a great player was something that I was struggling to find. I was doing modifications and things to my Les Paul all the time, trying to find it so that it was consistently consistent, and that's when I decided that I needed to get a bit more inside knowledge about the guitar. And so that's when I went off and did this course, and then everything sort of came into place after that, I guess, really. But it was through gigging a lot that I but realized then that I needed to get something. If I wanted something right, then I had to do it myself. I wasn't getting the results that I wanted from the instrument that I was playing. So I had to go out there and make it. Yeah. So what were those results that you were after there?
Well, as I said, we're always, as we were chatting about earlier, um, we as guitarists, we're always trying to strive to find that perfect tone that's in our head, and tone is purely subjective. So um, I just wasn't getting the sound that I wanted from my guitar. I was constantly swapping out pickups, constantly changing nut materials or saddle materials, or the guitar just wasn't feeling right. It wasn't responding right to my hands, the way I was playing. So I wanted to go deeper into what it was that I wasn't happy with, and then just sort of started building myself instruments from the ground up. I had control over every single thing. I had control over the wood selection. I had control over the fingerboard radius. I had control over the fret size. I had control over what pickups were going into. I had control over the scale length. I had control over what finish was going on it. I had control over the saddle, the nut, everything like that. And so from the experience that I've had of, I like that nut, I like that pickup, I like the way that neck feels, I like the way that one goes, I can put those all together and create the guitar that works well for me. And that's what I like to try and do with customers as well. I like to find out what it is exactly they dislike or like about something, and then we can get all those factors and put them into one thing that will be their ultimate guitar, and what we hope will be their ultimate guitar.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most valuable thing in having something bespoke made for you, is that you do have a skilled ear that will listen to what you like. And with everything being so much about subjectivity, if someone listens to you and says, okay, you like this, you dislike this, therefore we should do this, may not be objectively the best instrument, but subjectively it will be the best instrument for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. The next person might pick it up and go, this absolutely sucks. But to that person who had it made for them, they're like, it's got all the best bits that they want on there, and to them it's the best for them. And that's why there is no such thing as the best guitar. There just isn't.
Yeah. Yeah. So, do you think you found your favorite guitar or built
Yeah,
yours?
I mean, I play a that's it's wears its influences very deep on its sleeve. It's a Les Paul. So my Les Paul is made for me. It's got a contour. It's this one. That's my main gigging guitar. It's you look at it, it looks like a Les Paul, but it's got things on there that I like that are personal to me. So the fret size I've chosen. It's got a compound radius on the fingerboard. The nut is um, um, a tusk nut, and it's got a contoured heel as well. So where the neck meets the body, you've got a nice contour there instead of a blocky stop. And it's got a deep set neck tenon as well, which helps with the sustain. And so stuff like that. And it's only got 3 controls on it because I never used the second tone control. So it's got 2 volumes and 1 tone control, and it's got coil splitting capabilities. So it's all stuff for me that I like as a player. And it's weight relieved as well. So it's not you can play it for an hour and a half at a gig and your back isn't aching. But so yeah, I took what I like about Les Paul. I changed it so it's personal to me now, and for me it's my favorite guitar to play. It sounds
Yeah.
like a Les Paul. It looks like a Les Paul, but it's not.
I think that's probably more or less how any custom build goes, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
I like this guitar, but I'd like to change these little bit. I mean, for instance, I'm also a Les Paul player, but I can't stand the strings going through the nut at the silly angle, and then the G string going out of tune every 30 seconds.
yeah,
So if I were going for something custom, then I'd be going for like a PRS style headstock to
yeah,
get straight through the nut, because
yeah.
that's something I don't understand why Gibson made it that way in the first place. Surely they saw that coming.
Yeah. It's a it's a little bit of a design fault, but there's tricks and things that you can do so that the G string stays in tune. I mean, I've got a well lubricated tusk nut and I'm locking tuners as well, so I don't have any problems with that G. It's I can bend it all day and it's never goes out of tune. So locking tuners are a great one to start with anyway.
Yeah, well, there's been lots of inventions that actually going back to what you were saying with no new stuff coming out. There has been inventions to sort of fix the vintage Acura stuff to be more modern. For instance, the string butler. I don't know if you've heard of that.
So which one, sorry?
The string butler.
The string butler. No.
It's a little contraption which goes around. I think it's the bottom two machine heads, the top side of the headstock, and what it does is it pulls the. It'll be the.
Oh yes, I have done. I have seen those. Yeah, it's a little thing.
Yeah,
It looks
the
like a
B, G, D,
yeah. So
A strings.
Yeah.
Yeah, pulls them in to go straight through the nut.
Yeah.
So I haven't tried one of them, but I've heard they're very effective.
Yeah, I've not tried one myself either.
Again, it goes back to the vintage thing. Everyone sees a Les Paul and it looks a certain way. Then if you put something like that on top of it, it looks different. And
yeah,
I mean, I don't consider myself to be a vintage purist by any means, but even I would look at it and go, I don't know about that. It looks a bit strange.
Yeah. No, I'm not vintage purist either, but I know exactly where my sort of taste lies, and it is in, you know, classic looking instruments from the 60s and from the 50s and 60s, because my taste really hasn't changed. You know, nice looking Strats, nice looking Les Pauls. I do, you know, I have a guitar that I've built I don't know 10 20 times, and it's a more of a modern thing, modern shape, you know, PRS type looking thing, which but other than that, you know, my taste lie firmly stuck in the 50s and 60s. Aesthetically wise, that is, I have to say, you know, I'm not saying, you know, I'm stuck in the 50s and 60s, but you know, for me the nail was hit on the head aesthetically in the 50s and 60s. Nice looking tellies, nice looking Strats, nice looking Les Pauls. That to me is what the guitar looks like. I like modern stuff as well, but if I close my eyes and picture a guitar, I know that I'm picturing something that was made, designed 60, 70 years ago. Aesthetically, that is. Again, I must stress that. You know, that's how to me guitar looks. A guitar looks like a Strat, it looks like a Les Paul, or it looks like a telly. And I think that's apparent for a lot of people. If you were to close your eyes and imagine a guitar, we are gonna think of something that probably was designed 50, 60 years ago.
Yeah, I think there's only so many shapes that you can get out of a guitar, isn't there? Because it needs a cutaway for the leg, it needs a cutaway on the top so you can reach over it, and then a cutaway at the bottom for the horn.
Yeah. I mean, if you ask him to draw a guitar, he's going to draw something that's either resembles a Strat or either resembles a Les Paul.
Yeah, or one of the acoustic, like the Martin.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But and it's just drummed into us that's how.
Do you think we'd feel this way if, for instance, say one of the I can't actually think of any off the top of my head, but hypothetically, some modern design was made back in the 50s. Do you think we would feel that way about it? And then say a Strat was first made 10 years ago, we'd look at the Strat and go, oh, it looks awful.
Probably, because it's the time, it's of the time and of the place, isn't it? And that's what. But then, having said that, you know, the lost my train of thought. I'm sorry, but yes, I think if like the Strat was designed today, and like for example an Ibanez RG was made in the 50s, we probably would be talking about them in the same way because of the association that it has over time with getting in popular culture in the hands of musicians and famous musicians over time. If the design had been different, we probably still would be talking about it anyway. If the design was somehow different, I just think because it was involved in such popular culture, the way that it has changed over time, I don't think it's just they hit on something necessarily magical. There's also a great deal of right place, right time.
Yeah, I think there's the famous quote from Paul Reed Smith saying that PRS guitars would be as big as Gibson or Fender. It's just they were a few years too late.
Too late, yeah.
Yeah, which I think is absolutely true. It's
Yeah,
people
absolutely.
like what they know, and they know what they like, don't they?
Yeah. And
Yeah, I got that the wrong way around, but you know what I mean.
you've got a whole if the Strat is, it's the most famous guitar in the world, and it's more than just a guitar. It's it is a popular culture thing. It's part of um, um, and I can't put my finger on it, but I'm not a massive Strat fan. I've been talking about the Strat quite a lot. I like them. I don't play them very often. I like the way they sound. I like the way they play, but I wouldn't say it's my favorite guitar. But I can appreciate, what it stands for culturally, and that is a massive thing.
Yeah, I can't stand playing Strats because the middle pickup gets in the way.
Right. Yeah.
But again, just like you, yeah, they're very significant, and I love the sound that they make. Jimi Hendrix and John.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to try saying his surname, but from the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah. But when I play a Strat, it sounds balls. It's not my playing style. I'm a dig in, play hard kind of guy, and I think the Les Paul gives you something back when you fight it. I think the Strats, there are people out there who plays a Strat really hard, but for me, when I try and play a Strat hard, it doesn't respond the way I want it to respond, the way that a Les Paul responds when I play it hard. So that's how I ended up, playing Les Paul style guitars, because I like the way that it responds when I fight it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to say just for the fact it has humbuckers in it. I don't know about you, but I play primarily hard rock and metal stuff, so there's really no substitute for a humbucker there.
Yeah, quite. I play hard rock, metal-y type stuff, more contemporary sort of rock. But I like to get stuck in with a bit of blues. Peter Green's big fan of Free as well. Paul Kossoff's playing. But again, Les Paul guys.
Yeah. So going back to the job, what do you think is the most surprising thing that you've found from the job?
What's the most surprising thing I've found in this job? Let me think on that for a sec. The most surprising thing.
Doesn't sound like you have been that surprised then.
I'm sure I have been, but nothing surprises me anymore. I've seen it all. What still surprises me even now, is why Gibson make one-piece necks. It's just such a design fault. Les Paul's breaking, falls down, it's gonna break. I just don't get it. I'm going to put my kids through university from repairing Les Paul headstocks. But
yes. No need to complain then.
no, I'm not complaining. Yeah, but it's just, it still surprises me why it's made that way. It's just such a weak point to have a one-piece neck like that. And I know why they do it. They'll tell you, tonally superior. And I could argue that point as well, but there's got to be a compromise. I've had guys bring their guitar in 3-4 times with the same problem, same headstock break, but I just don't get it. If it's a weak point, why would you do that? I build them with a scarf joint, like the inferior Epiphones are done, but I've never repaired an Epiphone with a headstock break from a from it falling down.
No, with that being said, I have multiple Les Pauls with scarf joints, and they've dropped on the floor all over the place. I'm absolutely terrible at protecting my guitars from that, but not had any breakages at all.
None of them. No, but
Nope,
we did that with the Gibson. Yeah, just snap straight away.
Yeah, you just have to look at them funny and they snap, don't you?
Yeah, sneeze. But yeah, that's still surprised me, and I just can't. It's ridiculous in my opinion. But hey ho, there we go.
So, do you think that's them clinging on to vintage accuracy with that?
Yeah, definitely. It's yeah. Here it's telling you that that's the way it was done in the 50s. That's the way it's got to be done now. And I don't know if this is. I haven't got anything to support this, whether this is fact or not. But I would, wager that the reason it was done back then, because it does use more wood to make it that way. What they used to do is you get a billet, and you could get two necks out of it by cutting them that way, and then you just have to glue the ears onto the headstock. So you just have to cut it that way. So rather than doing a precision joint of a scarf joint, which is more time consuming. So in a sense, you can build the neck quicker, making it one piece. Although you do have to spend more on the materials because you're using more stock. But back in the 50s, mahogany being in abundance, it could be relatively cheaply bought in the States and get it imported up, driven up from South America, really not being too expensive. We see it now as being a rather expensive tone woods, but back in the 50s, I should imagine it really wasn't that difficult to get hold of, and not super expensive. But the whole reason being made from mahogany is because it wasn't super expensive, whereas now it is kind of different. So that would be why I would guess it was made one piece, quicker and not too expensive, whereas now it is quite kind of expensive to make a one piece neck. But again, I've got absolutely no fact in that, but I would wager that that's one of the reasons why it was done that way, just because it was quicker.
No, you might be right with that, especially with labour costs.
Yeah, and the time saving that would be done from making a one-piece nest I would imagine outweighs the cost of the extra material costs needed to build one-piece necks. I think that would probably outweigh it, which is why I would imagine it was done that way. And then people will tell you that a one-piece neck sounds better, but then we come back to the subjective what is better sound, and I defy anybody to actually hear the difference in it. A lot of these things I talk about as well, whether you can hear the difference and stuff, and a lot of these things that you're changing, small things, you can't hear the difference, but you can feel them, and that's a really different thing. And that's something that I chat to people quite a lot about, is whether you don't necessarily hear the difference in some of these things. It's more in the feel. You can feel that the instrument is responding differently. So when people ask me, will this make it sound different? And I think, no, it's not going to be. It's not like hearing black versus white. It's more you're gonna feel subtle changes in the way that the instrument is responding to the way you play it. And I think that would be, in your line of work as well, with pickups as well, you're not necessarily going to hear a night and day difference between two similarly spec'd humbuckers. You're not going to hear a night and day difference. But then when you get up to gig volume and you start playing on the stage, and the way that the guitar is then interacting with the amp, you're going to feel those differences a lot more than you're going to hear them. And feel the way that it responds to you. It's going to sustain more, it's going to sustain less, everything's going to come alive more, or or respond in a different way, just respond in a different way to your touch, and the way you play. I don't know if you agree on that, but that's something that I've come to.
No, I definitely agree with you. One thing that I hear a lot is, oh, well, the audience won't hear the difference, but well, you spend most of your time not in front of an audience playing for 99 out of 100 guitarists anyway, so I'm not sure why that's all too relevant. But if you notice it yourself, it makes a more pleasurable, more inspiring playing experience, which then means you'll play more, you'll play better, you'll write better stuff, you'll play better, you'll get more practice, and the audience will certainly notice the difference there.
Oh yeah, 100%. People are coming to. They're not coming to hear your headstock joint. They're coming to hear. They're coming to hear you play, and they're coming to watch you and how you play the guitar, and how you respond to it. Because it's a live experience. You want to go and see. Otherwise, you'd stay at home and listen to the recording. But you want to go out and you want to see someone playing. You want to see a band playing, and a guitarist on stage playing a guitar. And if that guitarist is in the best possible zone that he can be, playing his guitar, feeling it, responding it, and it's just working, and it's just that one night where it's working, and then for the audience, that can be a really exciting thing.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's what it all is at the end of the day, isn't it? It's about it's about enjoying your instrument as much as possible, and that enjoyment always comes across to the audience, regardless of what form it's in.
Yeah.
To say what's coming in the immediate future for you.
What's coming in the immediate future? I have got a number of guitars here that I'm going to be working on in the near future, while in lockdown. So I'm going to get my hand tools. I'm going to take these guitars home, start carving some necks at home. I'm just going to. There's nothing on the horizon that's looking incredibly exciting. Oh, I am going to start. I think I've been chatting to you about it. Experimenting in lockdown with winding some of my own pickups. It's something that I've done a few rewinds in the past, but I'd like to experiment with building my own pickups as well. It'd be nice to put just another thing to offer customers as well, that if they're having a guitar built, that everything is done in the workshop here. So I'd like to get into winding a few of my own pickups, start off with some Strat sets, then go into some P90s, and then look at some humbuckers. So that's something that I'd like to be doing in the near future. And I think, lockdown's going to give me an opportunity to do that, to sit at home on the evenings with nothing to do except for wind pickups.
Yeah, that would be great fun. Actually, having the same discussion in the first podcast with Ed there, he was saying he was getting into pickups, and I also told him that if you're getting into pickups, start on P90s. They're definitely the easiest ones to get into.
Okay.
So,
take heed on that, yeah. But other than that, it's something I like with my instruments. Recommending to customers is everything sourced in the UK. I like to use UK tone woods. I like to use UK manufacturers of pickups and of hardware, and so that everything's done. I work with a few local tree surgeons as well, so even to the point where I know where the tree has come down that's gone into building your guitar. I find really fascinating. And there's an abundance of species of tree that can be used to build guitars in this country. It doesn't have to be made of Canadian rock maple and South American mahogany. That's just something, as I said, like going back to what we were talking about earlier, something that was done in the 50s and has become the norm. The reason it was done in the 50s is because the big guitar manufacturers, your Gibsons and your Fenders, they could easily get hold of those resources, easily get hold of Canadian rock maple, easily get hold of South American mahogany, because they're on the same bloody continent. You don't have to ship it halfway around the world. You just got to drive it stick it on the back of lorries and drive it to your factory over here. And then so people kind of think that you have to make a guitar out of mahogany and maple. It's just not the case. There's an abundance of species of trees that make excellent guitars, and again, everything is subjective. So people ask me all the time, can I make this guitar out of this piece of oak that I've got in the garage? I said, yeah, if you want to, you can do if you want. Well, why aren't many guitars made out of oak? It blunts tools, it's really heavy, it doesn't look spectacularly beautiful. You can do if you get these, you can get a Rayflex on them. They can look really stunning if you get a nice finish on those. It's got a massively opened grained wood, so you've got to work really hard to fill the grain to get a nice finish on it as well. And these are the reasons it's not made from oak. It's not because it doesn't make good guitars or doesn't make nice sounding guitars. It's just a bastard to work with.
Yeah, I'm sure Brian May can definitely attest to that.
Yeah, made from an oak fireplace. But you know, there's no reason you can't make a guitar out of a piece of oak. I don't generally do it myself unless somebody wants that. In fact, I say that, and I'm looking at a guitar that's hanging on the wall that's got an oak top on it. So yeah, I do use oak occasionally, but I'm not a fan of it because, as I said, it's so hard. It blunts tools. It's so heavy. It makes a heavy guitar. But yeah, you can use it if you want. You can use anything if you want. There's a brilliant quote. I'm just going to grab it from a book. I'm just going to go a sec. It's Robert Benedetto's book. I don't know if you've read it.
I've heard of him. That's the jazz guitar
yeah,
guy, isn't it?
Yeah. And I bought his book for the first time, read it about 15 years ago or something like that. The book was first published in, I think it's probably the late 80s or 90s, something like that. But there's a quote in there right near the beginning. I'm just finding it now. Which for me just changed the way that I approach guitar making. And it's this. It says, if master grade tone wood is not available, use what is available. It is the maker, not the grade of the wood, who will determine the end result. And yeah, I think that's one of the best pieces of advice that I ever read when I first started out in lutherie. The guitars don't have to be made from maple and mahogany. You can use what's available. And we've got available over here, we've got English ash, we've got English sycamore, we've got alder, we've got walnut, we've got laburnum, we've got all these different kinds of wood. And the one that I see coming up often at the moment now amongst English builders is bog oak. Are you aware of bog oak?
I'm not, no.
It's got the appearance from a distance of ebony, so it's used on fingerboards quite a lot. And so I've seen people using it for facings as well. It can look really beautiful, but it's just a really jet black wood, really hard, and looks really stunning. And makers are using it a lot at the moment because it's African ebony is becoming so expensive and difficult to get it in jet black that a lot of makers are now using bog oak, and it looks amazing, and it's really hard, makes really great fingerboards. And so yeah, and we get it here. It comes from here. It's about 5,000 years old. It's part fossilized. It comes from these peat bogs, often up in Norfolk, and you get some in the Scottish Highlands as well. But these peat bogs, ancient peat bogs, where oak trees have come down in them 5,000-10,000 years ago and start to go through the fossilization process, and it changes the color of the wood over 10,000 years from being the color of oak to being jet black all the way through. It's not just stained on the face. It's, you know, it's jet black all the way through, and it's really, really beautiful. I'm seeing a lot of that being used at the moment as well.
Wow, that's fascinating. I think we're going to see more of that, especially the way they're clamping down with CITES recently, which is they've just, if my understanding is correct, they've with the rosewood stuff, they've taken musical instruments out of that now, I think.
Yeah. The other thing about the CITES thing I heard recently, and I don't know what, I haven't read up on this, but I heard through the grapevine. I'm not entirely sure if this is true, but the CITES regulations for rosewoods have all been lifted for furniture makers and for instrument makers. So instrument makers and furniture makers are now able to use rosewood again. I don't know the entire truth of that. There's something worth looking into, but I hear that might be happening in the near future.
I've heard it's already happened.
It has already happened.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought instruments. I don't know about furniture. I haven't heard about furniture, but I thought musical instruments now. I could be wrong, but that's what I have heard.
Again, yeah. To be honest, I don't use a lot of it because, as I said, I like to try and use things that are indigenous to this country. So I use a lot of walnut. I love walnut.
It's very pretty.
Yeah, and I use a lot of sycamore as well, which is European field maple. So it's a species of maple. I use a lot of that, which is different to what the Americans call sycamore, because sycamore, the Americans call, more closely resembles lacewood or London plane, which is what we get over here. So slightly different. So when the Americans talk about sycamore, they're talking about something completely different to what we're talking about. Yeah, I use quite a lot of that as well. To be honest, I only use rosewood when somebody requests it. Other than that, I steer away from it. And to be honest, it really flares up my eczema. I have eczema and get them on my wrists and in my elbows, and when I work with rosewood, it really sets me off. So I tend to avoid it, to be honest.
Yeah, anytime I've worked with rosewood, the dust goes absolutely everywhere. It's awful.
Yeah, black bogies for a week.
Yeah. So let's wrap this up by saying, where can people find you if they want to buy one of your instruments or want some work done, for instance?
Well, at the moment, I'm not accepting anybody into the workshop because of social distancing and things like that. So I'd normally like to meet people face to face, as I was chatting about earlier, come to the workshop, have a cup of tea and a biscuit and chat over these things. But we can't do that at the moment. So if anybody wants to get hold of me, email, phone, website, something like that. So www.smbguitars.com. That's SMB, Simon Michael Bailey. We're going for the PRS thing there. So it's SMB. You can find on the website all the contact details. So there's an email on there, and there's the workshop phone number, and there's the my mobile number on there as well. Also find me on Instagram and Facebook, SMB Guitars. Just search for those on either of those platforms, and to be honest, they get updated more regularly than the website. So if you're wanting to see more recent photographs of work that I've done, it's probably best check the social media rather than the website. It's just much easier to do from your phone, isn't it? You take a picture of what you're doing and then it's instantly up on social media. So that tends to get updated a lot more than the actual website.
Yeah, I need to keep up to date with my social media. Too many orders. So, Si Bailey, thank you for joining me on this second podcast.
Thanks very much. It's been a pleasure to be here. Thanks.